G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 28th of May 2026. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate, and as the war continues, I'll continue to bring comprehensive news and analysis within the manosphere. And make no doubt, men are victims of this war. Victims of the Zelensky regime, European liberalism, neoliberal war hawks like Clinton, Merkel, Hollande, you name it, generations of assholes who wish to manipulate the world over and over again to make sure that the wealth only stays with the wealthy, or those they deem as they pick the winners and losers based on ideology, not the merit, not the free market. So the conflict of global envy, global greed, control, creating super blocks, the fascist dream that is the EU, won't negotiate the end of the war with Russia. So Russia, of course, is preparing its usual big strike, but for now they have probed Ukrainian air defenses and will continue to do so in preparation for the next big strike. Of course, they hit the usual targets in Kiev, but more and more they are priming out this way as well as heading there. Poor Dnipro. Oh, looks like Kharkiv got spared today. Odessa didn't. Now the buffer zone is always hit, and there are many conflicts in many areas that are more of the same. Like Ukraine claimed to have liberated this area a week ago, and yet here's the Russians. Like I said, no Ukrainian offensive. Almost no Ukrainian offensive. 90% of Ukrainian offensives end up dead. There is a shell game of artillery and that going on here in Kupiansk, so there's no gains to. The Russians have broke through the lines here at Lyman, but nothing of significance. And the Ukrainian forces are still here on the outskirts, Zaporozhye, but Russians have got around. Most of this has fallen, but there's still areas. And the Ukrainians are still holding it here on the outskirts of, but the Russians have broke through here again. Nothing of significance, but again, they've broke through here. Again, nothing of significance. But as we look at Kryvyi-Luka, a quarter of the town is now under Russian control, and the Russians are moving in other directions as well. But these towns here still hold out. This town is slowly being absorbed. Koshnikovia is still holding, as well as the towns around it. But the Russians have made small advances in other areas. They have slowly absorbed all of this. Still pushing at Bunishki. Still pushing here. Most of Nova has fallen. They're still pushing. And pushing in other areas without gain. There's not much gains elsewhere except in Zaporozhye, where the town of Vozdvizhevka has been taken. So the Russians have continued their grinding offensive rather than big, bold moves. They are being cautious. Oh, did that just update? That's probably 147 drones on the Kinzhal. So we'll see. We'll get to the stories in a moment. First, I'd like to remind you that this channel is sponsored by you, the video audience. That is Empire Valves. One word, empirevalves.myshopify.com. Other enchanting treasures based on my writing come to life. There's the main characters. Now, the EU is not planning to appoint a negotiator. Ukraine will be negotiating for Ukraine. Europe will do everything that Ukraine tells them to do, and Europe will sanction every Russian industry, everybody who works with Russia, worked for Russia, and continue sanctioning themselves until they're completely isolated from the rest of the world. And then they'll go, we won, and generations of young people will just scratch their head. Liberalism is truly a mental disease. So, EU claimed that the US has abandoned Ukraine amongst Russia's threats. No, the United States has not left Ukraine. The High Commissioner Kaja Kallis has lied. No one has, even Ukraine said that's not true. But even some Europeans have said the Europeans have stayed but America left. But that has been backwalked. And yeah, now it's all been claimed to be a disinformation campaign to sow discord. It's all blame Russia day, isn't it? Every day, blame Russia for their own stupid mistakes. These are actually Ukrainian drones, by the way. But Russia attacked Ukraine with a Kinzhal missile on 147 drones. Air defenses destroyed 138 allegedly. Hits were recorded. We're not going to tell you what they were because Ukraine won't tell me what they were. And they claim to have jammed or 138. Yeah. But the number of impacts don't add up, and the damage continues. Russia has put out a statement on the attack of Stoblovsk, claiming it was all part of Zelensky's revenge campaign against the citizens of Lugansk for siding with Russia. Kiev has found it hard to recruit, as even in Ukrainian infiltrators, people who show anti-Russian sentiments, are being dealt with by, let's say, street justice, and anybody found helping Ukraine finds themselves suffering at the hands of street justice, and Russia is now claiming the next blow will be bigger than the last. It doesn't take a genius to know that Russia is preparing the next attack, because they have prepared an attack every week. It's just that they shifted from a small number of drone attacks to one really big one to basically a lot of little ones. And then, so it's gone from 50 to 100 and from 700 down to between 500 and 600. And they've added more missiles. But they're saying now that the next attack is going to be even bigger. And remember, Iranian production has predominantly shifted to other countries. Iran is now making its money as a foreign entity in sanction-proofed countries, so countries that won't abide by US sanctions, and they're shipping to Russia. And even Taliban is getting in on drone production, allegedly. And you're going to have over a dozen countries now producing drones for Russia. Yes, I know that's more countries for Europe and US to sanction, ultimately the winner is going to be the US. Come on, let's face reality. Right? Ukraine forces cause 8 billion. Well, they don't say how. I would say this is a month. But yeah, you got to take into account, you know, lots of things, you know, but there are criminal cases. Russia is continuing to advance, however, in other areas. But as goes for propaganda, no. The world is digging in their trenches like World War One, and most people on both sides are pretty much made up their mind. And Europe, the large number of anti-war, does outnumber pro-war, but because the anti-war is divided politically left and right, there is no single anti-war movement that could bring down the government, because the left doesn't want to bring down the government. They just want to hold off until the right gets into power, and then they'll bring down the government, just like they did to Nixon. So thank you for watching. That's the state of the war for now. It is an unwinnable war. The only winner who's going to walk away from this in better off is going to be the US. The Europe is already. Now the problem is that European economy, the state of the European economy, is being propped up, but yeah, they have slowed growth to less than 1%. Inflation 3.2. That's too high. Unemployment rate has stabilised, mostly due to mass deportations. A lot of people are leaving the EU. Again, that's lowering unemployment. Traditional powerhouses are declining in productivity. They're vulnerable, stagnant growth. The Green Deal keeps promising, has changed from 2030 to 2050. Predominantly, Europe has tried to shift its economy to more intellectual based, and yeah, it has failed dramatically. So they're now predominantly looking at global investments to drive the next economic growth. Now, just like feminism has peaked, capitalism is bound to peak. There's only so many people, and if the population of the world declines, capitalism will decline with it. You can't keep pumping up the numbers, right? Because there's going to be less and less people to buy those shares, and there's going to be less and less share trading. They will eventually just go the way of China and make numbers up. But we all knew it was going to happen. We all knew that it was a failed business model, that the boomers are a failed business model. The boom-bust business model is a failure. It's just that we can't seem to convince governments and businesses and anybody else to give it up, because it drives competition. And ultimately, it's not healthy, but competition is what drives the world right now, and that competition has translated into war. Like, share, and subscribe is the war we YouTubers, creators, trying to get popularity, to get our ideas to reach, to matter, and of course supporting the channel. If I had the financial means, yeah, Ko-Fi, Patreon, support me, please. Buy my books. All my links are in the link tree description below. Oops, of course. Don't forget my merch. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye for now.